This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing. We're getting to the end. Just 3 rounds remaining in the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series before 20 drivers at least punch their ticket to the 2019 Porsche World Championship Series. We are here at Suzuka. It's arguably one of the toughest racetracks in all of road racing, and it plays host to round number 7 of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. So we say hello and we say welcome to Suzuka, as qualifying has already gotten himself underway here for the 3rd to last round of the championship. We're past the point now of it just being about who's going to win the championship. We're moving into who are going to be the drivers who will punch their ticket and go and join the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series in terms of racing for over $100,000. We're Vincent here with Connery Maddock and Jack Stiles. And Connery, we saw the first round of the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series at Daytona on Tuesday. It was a great race, and we've seen the addition to the prize money has got more viewers than ever looking into sim racing.
Yeah, exactly. There were just so many eyeballs on that first race at Daytona. It was absolutely incredible, breaking all kinds of viewership records here on the iRacing service. And, well, I just hope that we can do the same once this Porsche World Championship gets itself underway. You have your qualifying standings up on your screen for you right now. On the left-hand side, Sebastian Job, provisional pole position at this moment in time. But the important thing to note, no Freddie well, there is Freddie Rasmussen. He just hasn't set a qualifying lap time. He is currently down in towards turn number 1, so he needs to get this lap in, otherwise he'll be starting at the back. We're
going to go on board of Frederick Rasmussen. It's not been the first time though, Jack, this season that he has been setting a qualifying time late on in a session.
No, he's almost going for the Sebastian Vettel strategy of China in 2009, trying to get his lap time in late, seeing what the other drivers are going to pull out. Current pole position is Sebastian Job, Freddie Rasmussen's teammate. He's at a 2:01.222, so Frederick Rasmussen has really got to get himself together. He's on his 2nd lap, so the first lap has already been invalidated for some reason which we don't know. This is his final chance to get a qualifying lap in, and if he just pushes the envelope a little bit too far, as we see him coming through the Degners, it just means that he won't get that lap time in. He'll have to start at the back of this grid, and he'll have a lot of work to do during the race.
It's worth noting the driver who is in the top 3 in the championship, Jeremy Bootslope, he is qualified 9th in this race. Frederick Rasmussen has not yet set a qualifying time, so we are in a situation where we could see a change in the order. Sebastian Job, of course, has led races in this season before. However, he's had a couple of unforced incidents. He's looking really now to just get himself into the World Championship. Cameron Franchak 7, Patrick Holtzman 3rd, Lauren Heinrich in 4th, and Ricardo Castellino rounding out your top 5. Let's hand it over then. Connery, Jack, take it away.
Thank you very much, Will. Freddie Rasmussen then up towards 130R. This has to be the lap. He is the only driver to not set a qualifying lap time. Careful not to step a foot out of line once he comes up to 130R. I think he's just about okay before he gets onto the brakes in towards the Casio Triangle. 24 seconds left on the clock, plenty of time to get across the line and set this lap time. What sort of time is it going to be for Freddie Rasmussen? It's a 201.185. That is pole position for Freddie Rasmussen. It's a G2 Esports front row lockout in qualifying, unless any of these other drivers can have anything to say about that, because we've got Ricardo Castroleo still out there on track. He's not going to have enough time to come across the line. That is it. Session is done, and this is how your grid is going to look. Freddie Rasmussen, pole position then with his teammate of Sebastian Job on that front row. Fantastic job there for G2 Esports, with Camel Franjak P number 3, with Patrick Holtzman lining up in 4th. Then Enzo Benito will line up 5th with Lauren Henrich P6, with Ricardo Castroleo 7th, with David Nowakowski lining up in 8th. Niels Koch will start off row 5 with Alexandra Thebe 10th. We've got Jeremy Bootloop P number 11, Jared Filsell P12, with Marin Cholak P13, with Graham Carroll needing a good race to secure himself inside the top 20. He'll start though in P14, with Daryl Williams P15. Ayan Changuven will line up 16th, with Alexandra Voss 17th. Sebastian Jungle will line up 18th, with Bobby Zelensky 19th. And Jake Hewlett lining up in P20, also similarly needing a good race to get himself secured in terms of the points. Moritz Lohner will start in P21, right at the back of the grid. Your entire field separated by 7.5 of a second. That is how close the competition is here in the Porsche Pro qualifying series. And it's going to be, hopefully, is another fantastic race here at Suzuka. Jack, it's another G2 Esports front row lockout, but can Camel Franjak, Patrick Holtzman, can they challenge?
I think it's going to be very close at the front of the field. They really do have to pull themselves together, I think, to be able to challenge G2 Esports at the front. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out over the course of the race.
Definitely a maximum of 10 seconds to go before we get ourselves the green light showing and these guys can find themselves fighting down towards turn number 1. Porsche Pro qualifying series here at Suzuka gets itself underway. Then Freddie Rasmussen, good stuff in pole position, but that's a fantastic start from Camel Franjak from P number 3. He's able to challenge for P2. Sebastian Job all the way down towards turn number 1 on the outside for Camel Franjak. He gets tagged around, somehow holds a fantastic hold there, as there's a huge incident behind them. Lauren Henrich up on his roof, and there's so many cars involved in this one. It's become a theme throughout this series now that we have a big one on the start.
And this is the replay up on your screens. You can see heading into turn number 1, Lauren Heinrich on the outside, getting a little bit squeezed, and I think there was an incident ahead involving a few cars. That was 2 Williams Esports cars involved with the other one. The number 6 machine was Niels Koch. We go back to live pictures, riding on board with Camel Franjak, chasing down Patrick Holtzman, who's currently in 3rd.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying they're at fault, but it always seems to be the Williams Esports cars that get themselves involved in that opening lap incident. We saw Moritz Lohner get himself involved at Imola in the big opening lap incident there. Luckily for him, though, he was at the back of the field in this one, so he can actually capitalize on that incident instead of getting himself involved in it. But, whoa, that is not what we like to see, but it's what we've started to see in this particular series. Just having a look at Ayan Changuven, he's going to be looking for the move over Alexander Thebe down in towards the spoon curve. Inside the line, just gets himself ahead. Here comes the cutback for Thebe, though. Inside line on the exit of the spoon curve. They'll take it side by side on the run all the way up to 130 yards. This is the battle for P7 and P8 out there on track. Ayan Changuven's up 9 positions already in this race. Side by side to 130 yard, then Thebe on the inside, Guven on the outside. Guven has to track out so wide here. I would say he would have to give up the position there, but he's going to still trying to challenge, still trying to fight in towards the Cassia Triangle. Here comes Jeremy Bootloop then for Fear Esco and the Simsports fighting on the inside of the final corner there. Thebe is not going to be too happy about that with the way that pass was done there from Ayan Changuven, Jack.
No, that was using every inch of the road possible and just a little bit too much if you ask me. But Jeremy Bootloop now under pressure from Alexander Voss. Voss going to the outside as they head into the first corner, and it looks as though using all the track that he needs, Alexander Thebe is boxing in Bootaloop, and Voss just hasn't got the drive off the corner to be able to get past as they head themselves into the S's. The S's are going to be a big crunch point on this circuit. They're a very technical part of the track, And with these cars, you just have to run it single file. If you try and go double file or 3 wide through these corners, you will end up in an accident. There is no doubt about that.
You definitely will. Up towards Dunlop, then you can just see there's a huge string of cars for P number 7 all the way down to P15, I count in that train. Well, P16 if you count Marin Cholak. That's right on the back of this train. So that is a huge mid-pack field here for these guys to have to deal with. So despite that big incident on lap number 1, everyone's kept themselves relatively close together in this one. We're riding on board though with Freddie Rasmussen, just having a look behind at his G2 Esports teammate. We have 4 drivers that have retired from this event, so we've got a 17 car strong field here still lapping.
Yeah, losing those 4 drivers, they were all lost in that first incident on the first corner at the first lap, as we see one of the Sorg Rennsport drivers going wide. I believe that was Sebastian Dunkel. That pass has been completed by the driver of Bobby Zelensky, and behind is David Williams. So looking backwards from Zelensky, you can see Williams trying to go side by side as they head into 130R, but he's not going to put the challenge on. Dunkel going to slam the door shut as they head towards the apex. Probably a good decision by Dunkel, because you don't really want to go side by side. As we saw from Anshin Guven, it's doable, but it is very difficult, especially when you get onto the dirty part of the track.
And the pass earlier on from Guven was very sketchy on the outside of that corner. I think if we had live stewards in this race, then they would definitely punish, or at least ask the driver to give the place back there in that sort of situation. There's a bit of an incident down in towards turn number 1. Boot loop has gone off, as well as, I believe it was one of the PRT drivers. Yes, that is Alexander Thebe, who have had a moment coming down to turn 1, but they managed to rejoin the racetrack in a relatively safe fashion. Boot loop running into the back of Alexander Thebe, because Thebe was looking to the inside on Guven, rejoins the racing line, and Boot loop simply wasn't expecting it, runs into the back of him. Both of them pushed wide on turn 1, but luckily both of them are still in the race.
I would argue that's moving under the braking zone. Of course, it might be allowed. You can see Thebe looking to the inside, moves back across in front of Jeremy Booterloop. Booterloop's just got no time to react. And the next thing you know, the front of his car is in the back of Thebe's. And it was lucky, actually, to keep them both out of the wall. It was a very good piece of driving by both. And to rejoin the circuit safely. Another replay, as you can see, heading down to turn number 1. The slightest of touches, and it sent both cars spinning into the gravel.
Exactly, there's a little bit of a stack up on the live pictures though for P number 8, Alexander Thebe versus Dunkel versus Williams versus Hewlett. It's absolutely nose to tail stuff, as the podium's also getting spicy up there. But as we look back towards this one, the Williams esports driver there of Moritz Lohner, well, Alexander Voss and Moritz Lohner, but then he's got 2 very quick VRS Kind of Sim Sports cars behind him, Jeremy Bootloop and Bobby Zelensky to have to contend with. And then there's a group behind this one as well that are going side by side. Jake Hewlett and Marin Cholak will take the fight down towards 130R. Dunkel and David Williams will also have a little bit of a think about it, but we're riding on board with Jeremy Bootloop right now, as there's a car running wide actually going through 130R. That was Marin Cholak, but still with Bootloop we are with looking to try and do something about those 2 Williams esports drivers ahead of him, but seems like he's just dropping off the pace a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether he has it. I wonder whether there was a little bit of contact, a little bit of damage on that car, and it's just affecting him a little bit. Your top 8 currently up on your screen, and you can see that the top 4 hasn't really changed since the first lap, but Jared Filsell leading the second pack from the 5th downwards, still riding on board with the number 15 machine. This is Moritz Lohner. Moritz Lohner, should be pointed out, he's our biggest mover in this race. He's up 12 positions on where he started. He started 21st, and he's now in 9th position, Connery. So in the first 7-8 minutes, if you can get yourself up that far, he is surely going to maybe bag himself a top 5 in this event.
But most people in this mid-pack have gained a huge amount of positions, because you see Alexander Voss up 9, Guven up 9, get Carroll up 8, Filsell up 7. That is all a result of that huge smash that we saw on lap 1, turn 1, that has allowed some of these drivers right at the back of the qualifying grid to be able to get themselves further up the field, which will do wonders in terms of the points required to either secure themselves inside that top 20 or get themselves inside of that top 20. That is the important baseline. Of course, if you're P number 21, 22, 23, then you still have a chance of getting yourself inside of that Porsche World Championship, but then you're relying on other drivers that have been given an invite to refuse an invite, but Boot Loop, oh, he's spun on the exit, or well, in the middle of the spoon curve there for the driver of number 14. That is a little bit of a weird one. I'm just going to see what has happened. It was very deep on the brakes into spoon curve. I have to wonder if he got half a tire on the grass on the outside there, but just spins the car right around.
I'm not sure that was not one. I was watching it live as he went into the corner. It just looks as though he lost the rear end. Riding on board with the replay, you can see heading through 200R into the spoon curve. I think he might have lost it on the entry to the corner. A little bit too much front brake price, and the rear didn't stop. And at that point, you are a travelling passenger.
Yeah. As we get the end of that replay, back to the live pictures then. Again, this mid-pack train still very, very much stuck together. David Williams then looking for the move over Sebastian Dunkel down towards the inside. That's a brave move from David Williams. Here comes the up and under for Dunkel, not able to complete it, but that was an incredible move there from David Williams. Just the commitment down the inside there. Just had no problems stopping that car in such a short space of time, and it gains him the position.
I feel like for David Williams, he was thinking, well, I might as well try because we've got a mile of runoff at the exit of the first turn, and he's that right there. So, very brave move, as you said, and I did see him get a little bit squirrely on the brakes, and the defence was even better coming into turn number 2 because he just didn't allow Sebastian Dunkel to even get his nose alongside, because as soon as you do that, you're losing the drive off of that second corner as he gets very squirrely through the Degners, riding on board with Moritz Lohner, still in 8th position, following his Williams Esports teammate of Alexander Voss. So for these two now, the best thing they could do is try and work together and pull away from Bobby Zelensky, who's currently sat behind them in 9th.
Yeah, Zelensky's done a good job so far this race, though. He is up 10 positions. Not like Moritz Lohner's 13, but still a very, very healthy amount of points gained for him. Up towards the spoon curve they will go then, and these guys not as close together as they once were, so later on in this race these guys are starting to spread themselves out a little bit, but of course that pendulum will swing back and forth. But here we go, Moritz Lohner going for the pass over his teammate down towards 130R, and that is an orchestrated move there, Jack. It's one of the more obvious ones I've seen.
Yeah, I think for Alexander Voss that was very much a, yeah, you go by your quicker, I'll sit in your draft and just try and work with you. They have got a little bit of a gap ahead to try and catch up to the drivers of Graham Carroll and Jared Filsell. 4 seconds to close that gap. And that's a name which I haven't heard even inside the top 10, let alone near the top 5 all season long, Connery, is Graham Carroll. I was talking to someone yesterday about the points in this series, and Graham Carroll wasn't quite performing as I expected. Today, though, he's really showing a good show.
Yeah, Graham Carroll was outside of the top 20. I'm just kind of have a look to see exactly where he is. He was P26 coming into this race, so this would be an absolutely fantastic result for him to maybe get himself inside of that top 20. And Carroll's definitely a driver where we expect him to be inside of that top 20. We expect him to be in the World Championship, but he hasn't had the best results so far in this qualifying series to be able to show what he's made of. But maybe this is a change here in the final 3 races of the season for Carroll, as he's sitting in P number 6, just on the edge of the top 5. Jared Filsell is not too far away, so if he can get that pass done, then he's going to look very much more comfortable coming into the final 2 races.
But Jared Filsell is strong. He's coming off of a win last week at Mount Panorama. Currently sitting in 5th position, so he's in a very comfortable position points-wise. And in the points totals, he is in a comfortable position. Top 10 position for him. I believe it was 6th or 7th last time I looked. So for Jared Filsell, he is really here today about getting those points that he needs. That's why he's not up there fighting with Cameron Franjak, Patrick Holtzman, Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen for the win. He's just sitting comfortably in the midfield and scoring those points. That's the consistency that you need to be able to do well in this championship.
This is where we bring Mr. Will Vincent into the commentary booth just to have a little bit of a chat about the point situation.
Yeah, so the top 5 drivers, let's not forget, in this championship will get some form of a prize from iRacing. From P5 to P number 20, however, it is literally, Connie, about a factor of you are going in, you're getting that ticket, you're going to run in at the World Championship Series. So as soon as you know you're safe, and this is going to be the key word in the next couple of races, the word safe. As soon as you're safe, you're not going to start fighting for positions for the sake of it, because you don't want to end up getting a DNF. So for the likes of Jared Phil right now, if Graham Carroll gets right up behind the rear of him, I don't think Phil is going to give him too much of a hassle, because Phil is safe in this championship.
Yeah, very safe indeed. We're just riding on board with Graham Carroll as he tries to chase down that particular driver, as things behind start to get a little bit more interesting. Oh no, Alexander Thebe has had an incident and he gets tagged around in the S's. I hope we can just get a replay of this one. The driver of the 19 having some problems. Tagged around by David Williams there, Jack.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened. Didn't see that one. I saw the very aftermath and saw a couple of cars off the track as we're riding on board with David Williams by the looks of things. Into turn number 1 they go. That is Alexander Thebe from Pure Racing Team just ahead. Heading through turn number 2. This must have happened through the S's. And all looking good now as Alexander Thebe very squirrely into the S's. And was there a tag? There was a big tag from David Williams. Williams gets through unscathed, for Alexander Thebe, he carries on, and he has got very large damage to that number 19 machine. You can see him squirreling, and I have a feeling that's day over.
It's well avoided from all of the cars behind as well. I have no idea how they managed to get through unscathed, as we'll see that Alexander Thebe, and then you see everyone just trying to dart out the way, taking to the grass, taking to the outside line, just to do anything to try and avoid that car spinning right in the middle of the circuit. But we will continue here for the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series, and Kamil Franczak up in P number 4 right now, on the back of what is your leading train right now, your leading trio. They haven't done much in terms of fighting so far this race, but they've all kept each other honest, all kept each other in sight. Still those 2 G2 Esports cars at the front, those Freddie Rasmussen and Sebastian Job, but Holtzman not too far away. He's had a very, very good run in this race so far, which is a great change, because, you know, earlier on in the season he got himself involved in those lap 1 incidents time and time again. But this time, Podium's on the cards.
And I think for Patrick Holtzman, that will really boost him going into the final 2 rounds of this series. The final 2 rounds were very, very difficult circuits. We've got Canadian Tire Motorsport Park next week, and then the final round is going to be held at Sebring, which is really the be-all and end-all, a very, very tough challenge. But for these drivers, they've driven so many laps of Sebring, it will be like second nature. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, maybe not so much. Some people wouldn't even touch it. It might even be for some of these drivers the first time they've ever even turned a lap at that circuit. And I think that's going to be the interesting one. Sebring, I think it's just going to be the normal cards. We're going to see the normal players. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, that's really going to throw, I think, a few wild cards like Matt Panorama did last week with Jared Philsell.
Of course, you can understand last time out with Mount Panorama that was basically Philsell's home track, as the Australians always tend to do well on it, and for good reason as well. Their home track, and the most famous track in terms of the series that run there with the V8 supercars as well. So I'm not entirely surprised that that is a thing. 14 minutes left in this one though, and things have got a little bit quiet. We'll have a look at Jared Philsell, in fact, who has really impressed a good couple of people in this series so far. Definitely impressed me. And he just makes it look comfortable. He makes it look easy. He was one of those drivers I thought that was, okay, he's going to be mid-pack. He's going to be, you know, challenging for positions in the mid-pack, maybe inside the top 10. But no, he has very, very much impressed me over the course of this series. Getting those podiums, getting the race win as well. And another top 5 looking to be the case here as well for Philsell. He's doing a very, very good job indeed. Yeah,
he's going to have another 7 laps remaining in this event. And with 13 minutes left, he's past the halfway stage for sure. His lap time's still competitive, within half a second of the guys that are running ahead of him in first, second, third, and fourth. Just to put into perspective, last time around, Jared Philsell did no 2.1. Everyone in the top 4 last time around did no 1.8. So the top 4 really consistent on the time. So is Philsell with his. Graham Carroll setting very similar times, Connery, if not just a tad slower. So seeing that gap close up might not happen. It's currently sat at a second. But as it stands, Graham Carroll is matching lap times and is not being able to close that gap. And I think that's something that's going to be very important when it comes to the points.
Yeah, Philsell just managing the gap to the car behind, which is all you have to do. Once you have a second or more gap. You don't have to go 110% to try and extend the gap. You can just sit there, just run a comfortable pace, as long as that comfortable pace is the same as if or slightly better than the car behind. So that is the plan for Jared Filsell. Riding on board though with one of the G2 sports cars, this is Sebastian Job, as he tries to do something about your current race leader, but doesn't have the pace advantage just yet. Well, the lap advantage went slightly in his favor the last time, but it does seem the overall advantage is with Fredrik Rasmussen at this moment in time. But Patrick Holtzman, he's just edging his way closer, I should say. He's sitting in the draft right now, but thankfully Sebastian Job has the tail end of the draft from the car ahead, so it's not too much of a problem. But Holtzman, if he wants to go for this in the final 10 minutes, I think he has the capability.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he has the capability. For Sebastian Job, he's got about 8 tenths ahead to Fredrik Rasmussen, and behind is about 5-6 tenths to Patrick Holtzman. So it's equal either way, given such, obviously, you will go out and get closer at some portions of the circuit where some drivers might be quicker than others. It will always happen, but it will only ever change by a couple of tenths. For Patrick Holtzman, you can see on your screen now as we ride on board with him, he's only 1.1 seconds behind Fredrik Rasmussen, so if anything happens to the drivers ahead of him, he is in prime position to pick up any positions. And that isn't a spin I'm talking about, that is literally running off the track at one corner, losing a second, bang, Patrick Holtzman was either second or first.
Yeah, exactly. So he is in a very, very good position right now. That's just sitting behind. Of course, he is, if we do want to talk about other series, then F1 Esports with Toro Rosso is Patrick Holtzman. So he definitely can bring maybe that sort of experience on the bigger stage, maybe into this once we get the World Championship Series going. That would be an interesting thing to know. Kamil Franczak in P number 4, though, of course, was one of those drivers that really, really impressed at the Porsche sanctioned events, the Porsche Sim Racing Summit, the Sim Racing Expo as well. Had very, very decent runs in those, though definitely at home with this car, it does have to be argued. And with P number 4 and multiple podiums throughout this series, he's one of the ones to look out for once we get to that World Championship as well.
Yeah, and I think the World Championship is really going to be interesting because we're seeing names that pop up in this series. Fredrik Rasmussen, Sebastian Job, Patrick Holtzman, Max Berneke, all very, very strong GT drivers. And then you've got the guys coming from the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series last year. That is going to be where it's going to get interesting because we're going to be adding in the likes of Gregor Hutu, Martin Kroenke, Mitchell de Jong. Very strong drivers from last year that we haven't actually seen really prove themselves in this car, apart from Mitchell de Jong, because he won the Porsche Sim Racing Summit. So for him, he's in a very good position going into the World Championship this year.
Yeah, very, very, very good position indeed. Right, let's get ourselves sorted in terms of the rest of these positions then, because we have a good couple of cars down on towards the pit lane because of the many retirements that we've had so far this event. We're down to 15 cars that are out there lapping because we have Dunkel have issues, we had Thieb, Henrik, Nowakowski, Niels Koch, and Enzo Benito. Unfortunately not going to be finishing this race, and one of those names you might not expect because it's Sebastian Dunkel. He got disqualified. Instant limit check.
Yeah, that's just come through, reported by one of the people also watching this race. It just looks as though the instant limit has bitten. It's very easy to do at Suzuka. The 1Xs are easy to pick out, especially through Degner, especially through 130R. If you just run a little bit too wide off the exit of the corner, you've got yourself a 1X. And the contacts that we've seen, Sebastian Dunkel was caught up in the instant with Alexander Thieb. He was, I believe, caught up in the first lap instant, so he's going to be picking up contacts as well. Very quickly racks up to that 17 instant limit, and once you reach it, there's no going back.
There isn't, so that is actually something we've seen in previous races as well. The drivers getting a little bit too close to that instant limit, and some of them, like Sebastian Junkel, falling foul of the 17 points that you need to avoid, I guess, unless you want to get yourself DQ'd, which is, I'm not sure why you want to get yourself DQ'd, but there we go. Alexander Voss, though, riding on board with him. He's lost a little bit of time to the car ahead of his teammate Moritz Lohner, and He's gained it back a little bit on that last lap, but the overall trend has been Lawrence Lohner getting himself away. But the thing is, Voss won't mind losing time to his teammate here as long as he is gaining time in terms of his battle with Bobby Zelensky, which he is. So it's not panic stations yet.
At the moment, Bobby Zelensky is looking competitive. He's looking good, sat in 9th position, the number 21 machine, one of the many VRS Grand Sport drivers in this event. But it just looks as though at the moment that Alexander Voss might be a tad quicker. 7/10, 6/10 split in the two as they head themselves out of the Casio triangle through that final right-hander. Very difficult in these cars because of the reduced downforce. This time around, the lap times, it just looks as though Bobby Zelensky was quicker, but by only 0.08 of a second, and 0.08 is not going to be enough with 4 laps remaining in this race.
Not going to be enough, or suspected to not be enough. 7 minutes remaining in this one, so still a lot of questions that have to be asked, especially inside of that top 4 though, because Freddie Rasmussen and Sebastian Job have closed up just a little bit. We're inside 4.5 tenths of a second right now, so if those two teammates get close, then you know they're both pretty comfortable in terms of the points situation, so they might just decide to dig it out for the race win, just give us a little bit of a show here at the end of the race. Might get Patrick Holtzman and Kamil Franczak involved as well, so if the G2 Esports guys so decides, then we might have a good show at the end.
I think we might, and it's going to be interesting to see if that does play off. 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in this race now. Sebastian Job, last time around, probably he was quicker. We'll see if that happens again. But Patrick Holtzman, Kamil Franczak, this gap is also closing up, so it's I seem to be seeing, Connery, and you've probably already seen it as well, the top 4 have expanded out a little bit. You've now got 2 packs running together, and I think that's now going to be interesting because that means that Patrick Holtzman can't put any pressure on Sebastian Job, which means that Job can really focus all of his attention onto Rasmussen ahead.
Exactly. Could look to make the move inside of those final 5 minutes as the battle for the podium position behind them could get itself on as well. Patrick Holtzman versus Kamil Franczak. Of course, no team affiliation between. Well, no, of course, these two guys aren't teammates like the 2 guys at the front, so they are definitely free to duke it out. As we have a look back further through the field, though, that's one of the Team Redline cars, I believe, that had themselves an issue, and that is Ayanchang Guven just having a bit of a problem. Let's just see what has happened through 130R, because David Williams has got this pass done out of 130R. On the brakes into the triangle, outside line chosen, and easy position gain there for David Williams. He just seems to be so good on the brakes.
Yeah, that's the second move we've seen for David Williams on the brakes, and I thought that Ian Chenguven had an issue coming into the corner, but it just looks as though he was earlier on the brakes than David Williams, and Williams was much stronger, so was able to get past. Guven now has nothing that he can play back with. So David Williams getting himself inside of the top 10, and this is the kind of finishes that he needs to just rack up those points to make sure he's there in 2 weeks' time at Sebring, because that's obviously when it's going to matter. But for Ayanchang Guven, losing just a few points probably won't hurt him too much. He has experience in these cars. He knows how to drive one of these cars well, Connery, because, well, there's no way of batting around the bush. He is a 2-time Carrera Cup champion in the real world, so getting into a car in iRacing isn't going to be much different for him.
Yeah, there's not many drivers, of course, sing iRacing's praises in terms of how accurate to the real world that it is, but Guven, he's had very decent results, I should say, in this series so far, just getting himself inside of that all-important top 20. I think we'll be seeing him in the Porsche World Championship, no issues, so he can pretty much coast all the way until the end here with not too many problems. They're having a look back towards the front of the field because those pairs have gotten themselves ever closer, especially the one between Holtzman and Franczak for P number 3. So Franczak, he might just have an opportunity. We just saw Patrick Holtzman actually go all the way to the pit wall and all the way back, you know, trying to make sure that that draft is somewhat disrupted there for Kamil Franczak, just having to force Franczak to follow him all the way down the pit straight. But it's not going to do anything in terms of keeping Franczak off his tail, at least for this moment.
And that's going to be the interesting part in this. Obviously, Patrick Holtzman, anyone asks, he's warming his ears. What he's actually doing, as you said, trying to break that draft. Expect to see the same coming down the backstretch into 130R. because if he can break that draft, even if it's half a tenth, every half a tenth in these final 2 laps are really going to matter here. The top 2 as well, between Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen, has closed up just a little bit. The gap is less than half a second. However, Freddie Rasmussen is still looking stronger at the front of the field.
Yep, exactly, and it's very tough to sometimes find which teams these drivers are actually from, because of course Patrick Holtzman, we could say, okay, he's Toro Rosso and S1 Esports, but he also does practice with the G2 Esports guys. Oh no, he's spun in the middle of the hairpin with the help of Camel Franjak down into there. Oh no, that's not how you want to end your race. We'll get the replay up on screen for you now. Patrick Holtzman very shallow, very deep in towards the hairpin. Franjak, though, just punts the back of him, going down into the corner, spins him right round like a record, and rejoins the racing circuit, thankfully, without too many issues. But, oh, I was just about to get hyped for that battle. That's a shame.
Yeah, that ended quicker than it probably should have done, but Camel Franjak getting the move done as we're riding on board with that driver. I probably wouldn't say that it was the best way to get the move done for Franjak, but Patrick Holtzman has carried on. He's still in 4th position, so still in a very comfortable point-scoring place. Behind is Jared Filsell, but Filsell will not be close enough to challenge Franjak, though. I think he should be ashamed of that move, actually, Connery. Yeah. That's not good sportsmanship. However, he is on the podium.
Yeah, he is, but I think if was just your standard iRacing official race, then a protest to the iRacing steward Nim Cross Jr. might be on the cards, I should say. So Franjak does have to be a little bit careful with those, and there's nothing that Patrick Holtzman can do right now. He actually doesn't lose any more positions than the one he lost to Camel Franjak, which is probably the silver lining on what is a very grey cloud in terms of that incident. He has a pretty comfortable 2-second gap over Jared Filsell as well, so he's in a little bit of no man's land right now. But the thing is, I think you'd prefer to be there than losing more positions. Yeah,
and I think that's probably a safe place for him now towards the end of this race. And that is something that is maybe going to be important as we're looking back towards this lead battle. Sebastian Job has dropped off the back of Frederick Rasmussen by just a couple of tenths as they head themselves through the Degner for the last time, up towards the hairpin for the final time. 1 lap ago, this is where we saw the incident between Patrick Holtzman and Camel Franjak. Just 6.5 tenths between the two. I don't think Sebastian Job is close enough. I think this race is Freddie Rasmussen's to lose.
Well, it might just be. I'm not just going to confirm anything just yet, but 6.5 tenths of a second is the gap right now. It has been fluctuating sort of between 4 tenths of a second and 7 tenths of a second between these two guys, but that is going to be time expired. This is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, so can Freddie Rasmussen hold on all the way up towards 130 and towards the Cassian Triangle? I think so, since Sebastian Job is just a little bit too far back, it seems. And just having a look behind, though, because the battle might still be on for P number 3. I think this might be Franjak actually looking to give the position back to Patrick Holtzman. We'll have to keep an eye on that one, but here we go through the final couple of corners. Easy as you like for Freddie Rasmussen and Sebastian Job. It is a G2 Esports 1-2 here at Suzuka in the iRacing Porsche Pro qualifying series. Fantastic stuff from the drivers at the front of your field, and that is what we like to see, though, behind. But Franjak giving the position back to Patrick Holtzman. Holtzman will finish on the podium, Jack.
Yeah, Holtzman has managed to get, or obviously let back pass by Camel Franjak. Franjak realizing that maybe it wasn't as safe as he thought so, and Patrick Holtzman actually thanking Camel for that. So Camel Franjak, I think, is back on Patrick Holtzman's Christmas card list for the end of this year. However, he's now got to stay there for 10 months. But for Camel Franjak, yeah, good move by him, I'd say. Still a good position in fourth, still a good points haul. But no, good decision to give that back to Patrick Holtzman. And I believe we're now actually going to see the replay of said action happen.
Yeah, it actually happened so close to the line that graphics put Franjak in the 3rd position instead of the 4th, but he is confirmed 4th position. Holtzman is up into 3rd. You can just see that pass being done up into the Casio Triangle, and that is the sportsmanship that we'd like to see. Of course, we've had some questionable racecraft so far in this race, but at least we get that feel-good moment. Franjak just letting through Patrick Holtzman, knowing that he did wrong. Massive props and a massive, at least applause from me. But here are your official race results. Freddie Rasmussen, Sebastian Job, a 1-2 finish yet again for G2 Esports, with Patrick Holtzman ending up on the podium after the position was given back by Camel Franjak, who falls down to P number 4 as a result. Garageable Philsell will get a very comfortable top 5, with Graham Carroll having a good run in P6, with Moritz Lohner all the way from the back of the field up into P7. That is a gain of 14 positions for the German. Alexander Voss will finish in P8 with Bobby Zelensky in 9th, with David Williams rounding out your top 10. And then you've got Ayanchan Guven finishing in P11, with Ricardo Castoledo P12, Maran Cholak P13, with Jake Hewlett 14th. Jerry Vootloop will finish in P15, with Sebastian Dunkel, the first of your non-finishers disqualified from this event, will be classified though in P16. Alexander Thebe P17, with Enzo Benito 18th, Warren Henreich 19th, David Nowakowski 20th, and Niels Koch in 21st. Those last 4 cars are the cars that unfortunately found their end right at the start of the race. So don't go away here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network, because it's the post-race show just coming up after this.
Freddie Rasmussen wins here in the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series, and he joins a list of very few drivers on the iRacing service with 10,000 iRacing. Will Vincent here, along with Connery Maddock and Jack Stiles. Connery, 10,000 iRacing now for Freddie Rasmussen.
Yeah, only one other driver has done that on the roadside, and that is Maximum Benecke, who, once we get to that Porsche iRacing World Championship, will be Freddie Rasmussen's main competition. So we have a battle of the titans on our hands for that particular series. Both drivers with 10k iRating. That is going to be something special, let me tell you.
Yeah, we've only had a couple of drivers on the oval side ever do it as well, Jack, but to get 10,000 iRating is an accomplishment in itself in terms of iRacing, because what it means is not only have you raced in the big series, but you've been able to develop and build yourself over the years.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially with everyone who joins iRacing. That ability to be able to develop yourself, develop your skills is very important, especially if you want to get to this pro level, even the level we're seeing here today in the pro qualifiers. It took me 2.5 years to get to 2,500 iRating. I can tell you now, I will never get to the level of Freddie Rasmussen or anyone running in this series. However much time and practice I put in. But skill is one part, but it's the practice and the want to develop is really important, and that is why we see those few drivers join that very elite club of 10,000 iRacing.
We have a look once again at your final race result, and it is the driver of Freddie Rasmussen not only gets victory by 4 tenths of a second over Sebastian Job, but gets that 10k rating. Patrick Holtzman in 3rd place, Cameron Franchak in 4th, Jared Phil in 5th. Then it's Graham Carroll, Moritz Lohner, Alexander Voss, Bobby Zelensky, and David Williams who rounds out your top 10. Well, again, 2 days in a row, Connery, you haven't had the most exciting races to call, but we're getting close to drivers officially punching their ticket. And I think we can say now, Fredrik Rasmussen is one of these drivers who are going to be in the 2019 Porsche World Championship Series. Even if they get 2 DNFs right now, they are going to be in there.
Yep, exactly. If you're just looking at, 300 points a race, on average, then he's very comfortable inside of that top 20. It is absolutely ridiculous, because even if he doesn't race for the next last two races, he'll still be probably P15, P16. So I think he's pretty safe at this point, and same with Maximilian Benecke as well. So he won't have any issues getting himself into that series. But for some of the other drivers, though, for the drivers like Sebastian Dunkel, for example, who's P21, Bobby Zelensky P20, Marin Cholak P19, Lona 17th, with David Williams 16th. That is a huge amount of very, very talented drivers down on the cut line that I think we might have a very, very interesting final 2 races as a result, in the mid-pack of the field especially, with people maybe going for moves that they perhaps shouldn't.
And Jack, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The issue here is now who is going to run in the last couple of rounds of the championship. Are we going to see Sebastian Job just say, okay, I'm done, I'm good? Same with Fredrik Rasmussen, same with Max Benecke. Are they going to continue to compete in this championship for the potential cash prizes at hand, or are we going to see them literally just saying, okay, I've done what I need to do, there is no more? And does that impede on other drivers looking on the Saturday afternoon to try and get into the World Championship Series?
I mean, it's a hard one to call. I think Freddie Rasmussen will run the 2 weeks remaining. I think Sebastian Job will have to. He's 12th position. When you look at the positions there, you think 12th position, he's pretty comfortable. But actually, when you look at the points, he is only about 140 points ahead of Bobby Zelensky in 20th position. So he's actually not that safe. 140 points in comparison is probably a top 5-6 finish in one of these strength of field races. We're looking at a strength of field today of 7,597, which means the points on offer are humongous. It's going to be a very different story to seeing one in the middle of the week on a Wednesday or Tuesday night, where you might only see an SOF of 3,000, where the points aren't going to be worth as much. So for Sebastian Job, these SOF races and doing well in them are very important. I think there's a few other drivers out on the track, on the circuits, which really do have to look at that. The likes of Max Benecke, Freddie Rasmussen, I agree, they are safe. However, I still think they will carry on running.
Yeah, at this stage, I would like to say, I'm going to call it here, Fredrik Rasmussen, Max Benecke, Jeremy Bootloop, and Lauren Heinrich, and maybe Patrick Holtzman, they are officially in the 2019 Porsche Pro Qualifying Series, because, Connie, there's just not enough points left in offer. We've got ourselves Cameron Franchak, Jalfil Sell, Alexander Voss, Niels Koj, and Ayan Guven. We'll talk about them next week, but your top 5 drivers, they are safe, they are in, and they'll be racing for $100,000 this year.
Yeah, exactly. That is just an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money, because you have to remember the biggest prize pool in sim racing before this, for a regular season, so I'm not talking about the one-off events like the Vegas E-Race, etc., was basically $16,000, at least on the iRacing side of things, for the World Championships back then on iRacing. But to have what is basically getting towards a very, very big prize pool for even standard esports coming into sim racing, then that is going to be absolutely incredible. And I just can't wait to get at least our side started on the Porsche World Championship. I know the NASCAR guys have started already, but the competition for that series is going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and Connery, I know that you actually saw the first round of the esports Sorry, so I'm going to say that again. You saw yourself the first round of the eNASCAR Peak Entry Series, of course, which is a part of the iRacing World Championship Series. And what a great race it was, actually, at Daytona, because of the fact that we only had 2 cautions, and that race was wall-to-wall exciting.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. When you think of a super speedway track on iRacing, or even just in NASCAR in general, you think, oh, it's just a boring, $200 lap race to the end, and then all of a sudden things get exciting in the final 5 laps. That's not what happened. It was exciting all the way through, and massive props to the guys on the commentary and the guys on, and of course the production as well, because the start of that race, with the whole introduction, with the whole VTs, with the whole interviews with some of the NASCAR folks, some of the iRacing staff members, that really seems like it could just be on TV.
Yeah, and I would say Porsche take note, because what they've been doing in NASCAR has been absolutely fantastic. Of course, Porsche and the Porsche World Championship Series, though, Connery, only one of only 6 World Championships this year. We got ourselves a Porsche World Championship Series, which of course, again, $100,000 on the line for that one. We've also got the VRS GT World Endurance Championship starting in a few weeks' time. That will be amazing, as well as World Championships in Dirt, and we've also got ourselves a Rallycross Championship as well.
Yeah, exactly. So no shortage of action here for World Championship tier driving, that is for sure. And that I can't wait to get the season started. I've already said it before, but I simply can't wait to get the season started, because this seems to be the sort of quote-unquote breakout year in terms of iRacing, in terms of sim racing as well. Just to see how well the drivers and, of course, us here as production can do with a big series, and to see if this is a trend that's going to continue, or it's just going to be a one-year blip.
Yeah, and Jack, the thing to note as well is that even though 3 of the World Championship Series don't have the Porsche money or the NASCAR money, they are still also a World Championship. And I tell you what, watching Friday night in terms of the sprint cars, or looking at the late models, they are still fantastic races to watch.
I can remember last year sitting down and watching a couple of the late models, a couple of the sprint cars. I had a friend running in the sprint car series, and they're brilliant to watch. And if you watch any World Championship this year, honestly, you need to watch the sprint cars, the dirt ovals, because it's close racing, close, exciting racing, start to finish. Rallycross will always throw up a curveball. Look at Mitchell de Jong almost losing the championship in the final few rounds, and then coming from nowhere to bring it back. He was really good at the start, all of a sudden not seeming as strong towards the end, and then brought it back and won the championship. Mitchell de Jong got a first, a second, and a third last year in the iRacing World Championships. He is racing again in, I know, probably 3 championships again. I think Mitchell de Jong's aim this year will be first.
Yeah. And of course, you can see that here exclusively live on the iRacing Esports Network. Thank you, first of all, for Isman Ballard, TrackCams22.com, Andres Warner, Simon Grossman, and Nick Thisson. If you, however, are a fan of iRacing, if you're a fan of esports, then check out the iRacing Esports Network. Like the button that you can see there. Also subscribe to us, and you'll also be notified of when we are live. Check out the iRacing Esports Network now. That's all we've got time for though here today in terms of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. It was a victory by Fredrik Rasmussen. He has almost certainly punched his ticket to the 2019 Porsche World Championship Series. However, he might still want to win the overall championship here in the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. There are 2 rounds of this race remaining, and they are going to be taking place next week at the Canadian Tires Motorsports Park in Connery. This is a track that can upset drivers very quickly. It's a bit like Virginia International Raceway that we saw yesterday on Friday Night Primetime. Not many people race there, and if you go off, the track is so slippery, you will end up in an Armco barrier.
Yeah, exactly. That is a track that has so many surprises in store for these drivers. I can't wait to see how they manage that particular circuit, because, yeah, it is exactly right. Well, it's a track that you don't often see in these top-level series. And as a result, most of these drivers might not be all that comfortable with it. So we might see a little bit of a shake-up in terms of the finishing order for that one. Maybe it won't just be Freddie Rasmussen's Sebastian Job all at the front, just making things look easy. We might see another challenger rise to the occasion.
And the final of the championship, of course, Jack, is at Sebring. That will be an interesting one because bump and run, final corner, Sunset Bend, it can always happen.
Yeah, and it has happened before. I have seen it happen, the famous bump and run at the final corner. There's also the hairpin. You've got that first corner, the bumpy left-hander, very bumpy through there, but also very fast. Sebring is a challenging circuit, but for a lot of these drivers, they'll look at that and go, yeah, I've driven so many laps of Sebring, I can drive it with my eyes shut. And I think maybe some drivers are going to go in with that complacency to that race, and maybe just slip up, even if it's a minor slip-up, it could still cost them a lot of points and a spot in the World Championship.
In a couple of hours' time, we've got ourselves the Club Sports E-Series powered by DGFX, as well as the SRA Daytona 500. The Sim Racing Grand Prix tomorrow, round number 2. That'll be here live on the iRacing Esports Network, as well as the 5th round of the 2K World Cup. That'll be at Barber. However, from ourselves here, from Connie Maddox, Jack Stars, and myself, Will Vincent, thank you for watching this part of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series here from Suzuka. We'll talk to you all next time. Good night from Japan.